What up, what up? Let's talk more about possible misleading statements in the probable cause affidavit. Specifically, could Dylan's testimony have been coerced? New context about statements made by the FBI Elantra expert resurfaced other lingering and unresolved questions in my mind pursuant to Dylan. So let's get into it. As we know, new and never heard before context and verbiage emerged from the FBI Elantra expert, seemingly feeling, quote, more comfortable with the original Elantra year range of 2011 to 2013, prompting the hypothesis that he was potentially coerced into opening up that year range to 2016 in the effort to make Mr. Koberger's 2015 Elantra quote fit the crime. This idea of coercion brought me back to the statements attributed to Dylan in the PC affidavit, which have never sat right with me. Now, before we get into it, I need to be ultra clear. I have always stayed away from implicating Dylan in this crime and still do to this day, simply because we have not heard her full testimony and there's also simply not enough intel at this juncture to do so. But the verbiage and phrases Dylan used to describe but not fully identify the suspect always bothered me, as well as some of the things she heard. So let me explain why. Quote, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Quote, "Clad in black." Quote, "Frozen shock phase," and not contacting friends and ultimately law enforcement for assistance until 8 hours later. Quote, "Not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows." Do Dylan's statements, tone and tenor, and precise verbiage used have subtle undercurrents of law enforcement? Further, it is extremely critical to note Dylan's eyewitness account is circumstantial, not direct evidence. She only provided a vague description and never specifically identified Brian in the PC affidavit. And in the investigative process, did the MPD ever factually conduct a lineup where Dylan could directly point out the suspect? All of this begs the question, due to the recent filing of the Franks motion and very serious allegations, a police officer may have lied in the PC affidavit used to arrest Brian. And if Brian's alibi is ultimately proven true, who did Dylan factually see inside 1122 King after 4 a.m. on November 13th? And perhaps most intriguing of all, as we know, the defense has alleged for almost 1.5 years that Bethany's version of events that night contains, quote, exculpatory evidence. Does that intel add even more credence to the idea that Dylan's version of events could have been coerced? Talk to me.